Welcome. So we'll get started in a few minutes, and then I'll have the groups introduce your podcasts as I play them.
I know that sounds like a mess up, and I wish I had
Not there's one.
Oh my gosh, this just
just be like, think it's not.
Everyone come with me. I go everywhere. There's an exhibit at today. Yeah, but that's yeah.
Really, you're blocking everything.
I am the beast.
Like LA, they should have sent us.
Did you see the moon?
Oh my god.
I was in Monterey, so every 15 minutes, but I kept trying to be Ariel and Joanne the rock. Always. And then I gave my voice to Wiz.
I was the witch.
Icon, honestly. And they're influenced by Divine.
Yes.
Yes.
Leave it to the gays to save Disney for Disney to stab us in the back. So.
Welcome, everybody. We'll get started in like 2 minutes.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for everything attending my crisis.
Is it gonna be streamed on YouTube Live?
It is right now.
Oh.
Can they hear it?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's also live transcribed too.
Oh, down there. Technology.
Thank you for listening to our day flight. We very much appreciate it.
Everyone ready for something?
So mine's for me.
I know this type doesn't help them, but I don't think he is really excited. Oh gosh, it's so good. When you go back home, Oxnard, and the summer.
Yeah. And I thought, I was under the impression that housing was gonna let me leave all my stuff, because I'm moving into the same space. Like in the fall, and they're like, no, if you leave one piece of furniture, you're gonna be charged rent. So I have to move out.
Everything's at home.
No, I have a storage unit out here.
Yeah.
And then just-
Are we ready to get started? Welcome. I'm going to try to jump down from this chair. Okay. Congratulations, everybody. You made it. You survived the semester. Yay. I know this is a really exceptionally tough time, a very, very tough semester. So you should be really proud that you've done your work and go into the summer with some good energy. So what we're going to do is play each of your podcasts in their entirety. And I'll ask at least one member of each group who's here to introduce their podcast, a little bit about the subject that you chose and why that was something that was important to you, and then we'll listen to it. Okay. All right. See if this all, hopefully everything will work together. Okay, so I guess I should give a little bit of an introduction. A little bit more than that is with each of these podcasts for your service learning projects for the semester. You engaged in discussion and learning throughout the semester about various social movements. And after doing that, each group chose a topic that they felt very interested in, something that had to usually do with mutual aid. And then went out and interviewed members of the community and edited those interviews and added their own research and information to create these collaborative podcasts. So you should be really proud. I think you all did a really great job on these. Okay, so actually our midwifery group will be first. So would somebody like to introduce the group? I need somebody to come up. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Sarah. I am in the group of, we did the midwifery. My group members are Marissa, Uli, Michael, Miguel, Mario, and Citlali. We chose the midwifery podcast because it's not a very known topic. And we thought that it is extremely prevalent currently during the crisis we're facing with the disparities against women of color in hospitals during giving birth. And we thought that we had the perfect representation with Eva, and she was able to get us to know her part in midwifery and basically the whole process. And working with my group members has been great the entire time, the entire semester. So I hope you like our podcast. Thank you.
One of the most basic natural acts committed by all females since the dawn of time is childbirth. More than 385,000 babies are born every day. It's not a miracle though. It happens all because of the people in our community, like nurses, doctors, and midwives. My name is Sarah, and in this podcast, my colleagues and I are going to discuss the midwifery movement, where it started and where it is today. Our podcast features an interview done by our colleague Michael with a midwife student named Eva that views her role as part of a greater movement of reproductive justice. You will also get to hear from our colleagues Uli and Siklani as they discuss their research on midwifery and the reactions to Eva's interview. But first, a brief background on the midwifery movement. According to neonatology.com, midwife is an English word that translates to with women, which of course implies the supportive, attentive aspect of midwives and doulas. The earliest known midwives could be traced back to biblical times. These midwives were wise women who had attended several births and gained enough knowledge to attend other births and support the mother as well as assist in the delivery. In these times, men or the fathers of the child were not allowed to be present during the birth because it was considered indecent. So that was when the practice of only having women became the normal, and all women in the community would attend to show support and encouragement for the mother. By the late 1910 to 1920s, medical staff like nurses and doctors were being seen as more relevant to assist during childbirth, and midwifery slowly faded away. This was due to the fact that the Shepherd-Towner Act stated that pregnancy and childbirth were now labeled as a risky or a dangerous condition that required the attendance of a skilled licensed doctor and nurses. Today, 98.4% of women give birth in hospitals. However, according to midwife.com, more than 70% of all births are accompanied by a nurse, midwife, or doula. Today, the job of the doula is to now be there to make the labor go as smooth as possible, as well as spiritually guide the mother and the baby, insisting that the labor be all natural without drugs unless medically necessary, as well as ensuring that once the baby is out, the nurses and doctors follow the holistic natural birthing plan the mother intended to have. Midwives and doulas ensure that this memorable moment goes exactly the way the mother wants it to be.
So hello, I'm here with Eva Ariola, and she is a practicing midwife or a bruja in training, and this is a interview just arcing her experience and her life experience.
Good morning, Michael. My name is Eva Maria Ariola. I am currently a student midwife. I was born and raised in Salinas, California, and I was lucky enough that I found a brown midwife in the area, and she's my preceptor. Her name is Nancine Maldonado. And so I have been practicing with her for almost about 2 years now. So I've been attending home births in the area. I'm currently a birth assistant, so a midwife assistant, and also a birth and postpartum doula. So I do postpartum rituals that originate from Mesoamerica and Mexico, and I also make plant medicine.
So I don't know much about it, but the practices that you're bringing in and you say that you're using like a lot of indigenous methods within your midwifery. and indigenous being like a monolithic term in the way like we think about it, are you drawing practices that have quote unquote been passed down to you by your mother or from that are specific to Jalisco?
So unfortunately, yes, like Jalisco is rich in its cultura, but a lot of it is Spanish culture. There's a lot of like baile folclórico, mariachi. Granted, of course, the food still will retain its roots, right? Because siempre pues hay tortillas, you know, maíz que viene de Mexico, you know, it's our staple food, the food of the gods, and you know, chocolate, cacao. So you know, wherever you go in Mexico, the food will always like have its roots because it's the native plants of the area. But in Jalisco, I will say that my mom, like she instilled the love of plantas for me. But I wouldn't necessarily say that where my family is from, we're still tied to indigenous practices. It's more of a combination of, you know, whatever European influence was there, along with anything that like has survived. But it's kind of just been all meshed together under the umbrella of like Mexican traditions, if that makes sense. When it comes back to claiming indigenous or native practices, like one of the things that we really have to acknowledge is that the majority of certified nurse midwives and certified midwives in the US, 85.52% identify as white. And then the next one would be, I think it's about 6.85% they identify as Black or African American. So the percentage of Latina or brown midwives in the US is not very high. And on top of that, that doesn't necessarily mean that these midwives are speaking any indigenous or native languages, let alone Spanish. And so when it comes to the line of work that I'm doing with midwifery, it's reproductive justice. Being a midwife, like activism is part of like your life. It's political, it's everything. You know, there's just no escaping it. And so for myself, it is definitely bringing back the customs and rituals that have surrounded pregnancy and childbirth since pre-Hispanic times. And so that involves like encouraging people to eat their ancestral foods, you know, depending like what part of the world you're from. Of course, like I'm very familiar with like the types of foods that we would eat in Mexico. But I also go like above and beyond, and then I love asking, what did your grandma eat when she was pregnant? You know, like, do you know if she had any postpartum care? Like, who was at her birth? And I love asking the question, who is the last person in your family to be born at home? Like, I love that question so much because it brings up the most beautiful conversations. Like for myself, like my mom and all her siblings were born at home and they're, you know, in Mexico. And so I had been thinking about it and I was like, it's so crazy that like my cousins and I, when we came here, and some of my cousins in Mexico too, like by that point, big influence had been made so that women would birth in hospitals. People think that like home birth is this thing that people did like hundreds of years ago. But in reality, like our moms and our grandmas were probably born at home. So that's a big part of like what I want to do with midwifery here is like connecting people to like their customs and their practices and understanding why we did these things, understanding that our ancestors, like they were scientists. It's acknowledging like that emotional intelligence, right? Like that it's of high value. It's understanding that women, when they have to become pregnant and they carry this child and they birth this child, like it affects them like on an emotional and psychological level, and like that we need to nurture and care for this woman, that not only when she births a baby, she's also birthing herself.
While listening to Eva speak on the impact that midwifery has on different cultures around the world, it is important to remember how discrimination and racism impacts pregnant women every day. Here's Uli and Silani.
I am your co-host, Ulises Dueñas. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I let my co-host introduce herself.
Hi guys, my name is Citlali Galvan and I use the pronouns she, her, hers.
And speaking into that, mortality rate has slowly increased, which I thought was really interesting. According to statistics found through the CDC, the maternal mortality rate for 2020 was 23.8 deaths per 100,000 lives births, compared to the rate in 2019, which was only 20.1, which I think is really interesting. And when going on it, I feel like it's very important to acknowledge the racism and discrimination that's happening within the medical field, predominantly for Indigenous women, Latinx women, and Black women. Black women are undervalued and they are not monitored as carefully as white women are. And when they are presenting symptoms, they are often dismissed, which I feel like I've heard so often when it goes into like women within like my communities. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Because I focus my paper on why the birth rates in the US are actually decreasing is because many women are choosing not to have children. Actually, yeah. And I was more focused on an article written by CNN, literally labeled "Why Women Are Deciding Not to Have Kids," and a lot of it was some women just chose not to because they felt that they can't get the support they need. And how you said a lot of indigenous women, black women, Latinx women, they feel as if, they're not accounted for. And that's so true because let's say in the scenario of like there's a single mother and she just had a child, she's not gonna get the same help as a white single mother would. Which is honestly like so sad to hear that the government can say, oh yeah, we have all these programs for young single mothers or teen mothers, but it's in reality, it's like, who are these programs really open to,
Definitely. Yeah, and I feel like it goes into like how doulas and midwives are seen as like a non-traditional thing. And I've brought this up during the podcast, like that like doulas and midwifery is seen as non-traditional, even though it's been embedded within indigenous cultures and just like Latinx cultures and like people of color cultures in general, to create like a safe space for someone to go through as something so intense as giving birth to another individual. You know what I mean?
If you could tell us like a brief story about a memorable midwife experience that you've been on.
I want to talk about the very first home birth I went to. This was years ago. I was just becoming a doula, but this like older midwife in the area who's no longer practicing invited me with her. She invited me because the woman who wanted to have a home birth didn't speak English, so I was translating. It was really awesome. Like I came to all the prenatals with her and I just translated it, and we built this trust. And when she was giving birth, I was providing a lot of the emotional support because she and I had bonded. And when the baby was born in the call. And what that means is that when the baby was born, the baby was still in its bag of waters. And I remember the baby like dropped onto the bed and he was still just, in the bag of waters. Like he was in this in between, this realm of still being attached to his mother and in this like water-like state, but on earth still, like in this like just odd transition. And the midwife carried a bag of waters, and then the baby, cried out. And I just remember thinking like, just how magical and crazy like birth is. I'm never gonna forget that experience. It was really beautiful.
I think that's amazing. I knew
Each woman's experience during pregnancy is so unique, and a midwife's role in that can make a world of difference. Here again is Uli and Siglali as they discuss the documentary No Mas Bebes that Uli watched as part of his research.
I know. And the other two folks that caught my attention was Dolores Madrigal. Her relationship with her husband became physically and emotionally abusive after they found out that of the sterilization procedure that happened weeks before, but they didn't really understand what was going on. And the other story that caught my attention was Melvina Hernandez. She was sterilized as well at 23, and she was not aware of the procedure until 4 years after. Forced to sign an English document for a C-section to quote unquote save the lives of her and her baby, she refused because her husband was gone, though the nurse ended up grabbing her hand and signing it for her, which is, I'm just getting very emotional right now because it's really intense, and not having your partner there to like support, or not even having, imagine if there was the normalization of having a midwife or a doula there to help you navigate those conversations, because a thread that was in between all of these stories were that these were immigrant mothers that didn't understand English, that didn't have somebody that spoke their native language while they're going through something that's so intense as giving birth. And then I don't know. That just reminds me of my mom too. Like, I was born in Mexico, Guadalajara, and everything was fine. I mean, I was there, but I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I'm pretty sure everything was fine. Pero my little sister, she was born in Natividad Hospital in Salinas, and my mom told me that she was feeling so nervous and anxious because there was just a bunch of people around her speaking a language that she didn't know, telling her things to do, like giving her drugs, giving her this, giving her like a injection in the back to help her calm down and everything like that. But she didn't understand what was going on, and there wasn't that communication that could have happened if like there was a Latinx midwife there or a doula there, such as Eva, which is an icon, honestly. Like hearing her stories and how she delivered babies, or is in this journey of delivering babies, is so beautiful to me.
My mom shares a similar story to your mom, because me and my brother, we were both born here in California, in Santa Maria. It's just my brother's a year older. So when my brother was born, my dad was present with my mom. And since my mom spoke very little English, my dad was there. He was translating everything to her. He would speak with the doctors. Luckily, he was a loving husband, and he was like, hold on, let me like speak to my wife of what's going on. I want to make sure she's comfortable and that my baby's gonna be okay. My story, on the other hand, is that my dad was stuck at work in Yuma. My mom had to go to the hospital first by herself.
Oh my god.
And she tried to tell the doctors that, when in Spanish, estoy embarazada, translating to I'm pregnant. And it was so weird because in Santa Maria it was very Latinx based.
Yeah, definitely.
But most of the doctors there were prominent. Well, what she told me was they were mostly all white. She was just so scared.
Knowing all of this, when it comes to midwifery, when it comes to reproductive justice, like what worries you the most about it?
For midwifery, so midwifery there's different laws for midwifery in different states, right? And in certain states, you cannot be a practicing midwife, or there's all these like requirements and regulations. And for a moment in time, it was illegal to be a midwife. So for midwifery, although there's like a revival definitely happening, for me, it's like worrisome sometimes just to think that laws, can change and we can be stripped of our human right to birth the way that we choose to. Everyone should have the right to choose and also to be well informed when making those decisions. My preceptor loves when I sing this song to the moms. It's called Todo tiene medicina dentro. So for anyone who speaks English, it just means like we all carry medicine within, and not medicine as in like prescription medicine, meaning like loosely translated to like we all carry like our own magic, our own healing abilities that we get to share with everyone. Todo cura, todo sana, todo tiene medicina dentro. Hey, nay, nay. Todo cura, todo sana, todo tiene medicina dentro. Llevo medicina dentro. Llevo el universo dentro. And it's a longer song, but I always just love to remind the people that I'm working with is like, you have the ability to soothe and heal and sustain yourself through everything because you are part of the universe and you are the universe. And, you know, when they're doubting their own ability, like I get to share my medicine with them so that they can like continue going.
That was really interesting too, because, you know, as we medicalized birth, or the death rate has gone up, which is really interesting. So great work. Okay, let's do the next group. Do you want to come introduce them?
Yeah.
This is nerve-wracking. I haven't been on a stage like this.
Think of it as empowering.
Well, hello. I just want to say that last podcast was amazing. That set the bar high. So yeah, so for my project, it was me and Hunter. We did ours on the Asian cultural experience, and it was we were kind of having, to be honest, we were having issues picking a topic. Originally, we wanted to meet up with someone from San Francisco, and then kind of last minute, I didn't even know there was an Asian festival going on. So the professor said, "Hey, I know this Miss Jean in Europe. Should contact her and interview her." And I'm like, "Sure, why not?" And so it was about a 2-day process. I went on the day of the festival, was really busy, couldn't really ask her too many questions. So you'll see, this is more like an interview format. I just kind of went, brought up my camera, interviewed her, asked her some questions. A lot of the questions included about the history. We learned about some families in the area, and it's a little bit of that. And so yeah, so again, you'll see kind of a 2-part. Oh, and what the Asian cultural experience really, that's the other answer, I was question I was gonna answer, what it really meant. So what they were trying to do is basically preserve and enrich the history that they have in Chinatown. There's a cafe that they're trying to invest in, and they kind of want to just have that history there. Of course, there's still the Buddhist temple there. During the festival, I actually went, they gave out free tours, and you kind of got to see the history between California Street and Soledad Street, I believe. And so, yeah, Miss Jean was very welcoming. She was able to let me ask her kind of all the questions I wanted, and that's kind of our video. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy.
Okay, so I got involved with Chinatown because of some research I was doing on Filipino newspapers. So the longest running Filipino newspaper in the United States was published here out of Salinas, Chinatown.
Oh.
And it ran from the early 1930s to 1983.
Uh-huh.
So I was doing my graduate work at UC Berkeley, and I came down here to look at the print copies, and I realized that the newspaper told so many stories about Chinatown, and there was so much that I didn't know about the history. I didn't know that, that the Chinatown here was founded as early as 1872. I didn't know that the Japanese were part of this community, and that the Filipinos were part of this community, and also the Mexicans who lived around here. So it was really a multicultural neighborhood, which I think is what makes it really different from a lot of other Chinatowns in this area.
The Asian Festival, how long has it been going on for? For a couple of years now.
Oh, it's been more than a couple of years.
Yeah.
So I only came in 2012, and it had already been running for maybe 2 or 3 years before I came.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's been going on for a while.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So this is the Philippines Male Blues Band, and they're basically sponsored by the newspaper that I told you about, the Philippines. It was called the Philippines Mail.
Yeah.
Again, the longest running newspaper, Filipino newspaper in the US. And this guy was sort of part of my extended family uncle, actually.
Oh, really?
His name is Maru Ibarra. So this is a picture from the 1930s.
Wow.
And this guy worked in the fields here in Salinas until he was like in his late 70s, early 80s.
Wow.
Yeah. But all the time he played music and he had bands. And my father joined his band in like 1970 something.
Whoa.
So that's how I knew about him. But I actually never came across this photo of him until I was doing research on the newspaper.
You recognized him?
Yeah, I recognized him. So I only knew him as an old guy.
Okay.
But I recognized the trumpet, and his face. Yeah, the festivals have been going on for a number of years now. And of course, during the pandemic, we had a hiatus, except that we were surprised that we were able to have a virtual festival. And that was partly helped by some younger members who came in at that time and were able to coordinate things for us. So that was really an interesting and different experience for us. But the Asian festivals is and will always be, I'm sure, just a really pivotal event for ACE, and we wanted to keep on going year after year. And the thing that we're trying to do right now is get more younger people involved. Like this year, we did get a lot of youth involved, and especially with Jason Powell's coordination, because he has a lot of experience in the guest services. We got some really good help from the younger folks, just in terms of helping to conduct surveys and, greeting people and giving them information and stuff. And hopefully that will also get them involved in the future in the organization itself, and get them more interested in just telling all the different stories about Swedish China. There's various families with the Japanese Buddhist temple who have been involved with ACE, and other Chinese families like the Atai family, who own the Republic Cafe down the street. Okay. And whose building we hope to purchase to create a cultural center and museum. The Lee family, one of our elder historians is Wellington Lee, and his grandfather was Shorty Lee, the unofficial mayor of Chinatown, and one of the founders. So he still has plenty of stories in him, and he often takes part in the Chinatown tours. So that is a really important family for ACE. The Filipino families involved with the Filipino Community Center, they have been involved for decades. And right now, Mars Okamura as a president, and he and his family are really active
Involved.
in doing those events. Those are all our partner organizations that are in the neighborhood. Star Market is not in the neighborhood, but they're still strongly connected. Yeah, so Wellington Lee is associated with the Confucius Church and the Chinese Association.
Okay.
As well as other families who are connected with the Chinese Association, which has been, you know, a community center in itself. A school, you know, meeting place. A lot of good food has come out of there.
Yeah.
You know. Also, Mexican families in Chinatown, for example, Kathy Chavez Miller's family owned a bar and restaurant down the street.
Okay.
I think a couple of places down the street. And she's now the chairperson of ACE.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's important for people to know that just about the multicultural nature of Chinatown.
Chinatown.
You know, Mexican families have been involved in the businesses here too, as well as I think several African American families.
As well. And then my last question would be just like the agriculture. You know, we're such a town of agriculture. What kind of like during this time, was it the Japanese, were they mostly involved in agriculture, or is that a tough one?
All of the groups.
All the groups.
I mean, because when the Chinese first came in the 19th century, they were set to work reclaiming the swampy lands around here so that it could be used for agriculture. So that was really important.
Yeah.
And then when the Japanese came in the late 19th century, they were involved in farming. I think most of them were. So they didn't all live right here in Chinatown, but they did have farms around the area, as well as businesses along East Lake Street here.
Right here.
Right here. So, yeah, and then of course they lost all their businesses and farms during World War II.
And that was is that also when they got placed in the rodeo grounds, right?
Yeah, so then they were all sent off to the rodeo grounds. I think some of them slept overnight in the horse stalls. And
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, and then they were sent off to all different points across the U.S. To incarceration camps. And then, you know, when they came back here later after the war, a lot of the people in Salinas didn't want them to come back. So very few, I think maybe 25, I don't know if it was 25 people or 25 families were able to return.
Wow.
Out of hundreds, right?
Yeah.
It was different in Monterey. In Monterey, they did they made a decision to let the Japanese come back. So there was a Japantown and a Japanese community in Monterey. The Filipinos were contracted in the 1920s to come here and work in the fields. So they came by the thousands at that time, and they had already had some experience with labor issues and labor organizing in Hawaii. So a lot of those people who came here became very active in labor organizing. And so even if you look at this poster right here, Filipino laborers in the 1920s and 30s, when they started organizing for higher wages, you know, there were some violent strikes here. This is in the 1930s. Tear gas, they were one of the first groups that tear gas was used against, and you can see that in the photograph right there, which was taken in 1936. They had a labor union building on Lake Street down at the corner there. It was one of the first Filipino labor unions in California.
Wow.
Yeah. So they were really active, and at that time, You remember there are thousands of Filipinos working in the fields, including my dad and my uncle. I think there were a few Mexican laborers starting to come in, especially when the Filipino labor strikes happened. The farmers started hiring in other ethnic groups. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's yeah. I didn't even know about the encampment that happened until I went to a World War II museum in New Orleans, and that's where they actually talked about what happened here in Salinas, and I was just like, wait, that's Salinas, and I read it, and I'm like, I had no clue that that even happened until I went over there, and I was like, how did I never get taught this? Oh, this is in elementary school or high school. And in history class, I never got taught this. When I got told that, I was like, what? I just didn't believe it. I was in disbelief, so, yeah.
Yeah, I guess some of the people here ended up in, I mean, really in far-flung places. Arkansas, Arizona in the desert, Louisiana.
Yeah.
So other Chinatowns, we do have some connection to other Chinatowns across the U.S. Of course, it's the San Francisco Chinatown, because a lot of people, I don't know if a lot, but some of the people who founded the Chinatown here also came from San Francisco Chinatown. But we also have a connection with New York's Chinatown and the Museum of the Chinese in America, because one of the founders, Dr. Jack Chen, came down here to Salinas and gave a talk at CSUMB in support of our mission here in Chinatown to revitalize the area. So he also came down to Chinatown, and we took him on a tour. He was so supportive, and he also was part of a group who visited the Sui Sin Tong building here in Chinatown, where members of the Bing Gong Tong met up with the Sui Sing Tong for the first time in like decades.
Wow.
And it was just sort of almost an accident. That's while we were taking Jack Chen on a tour, Wellington Lee happened to notice that the Sui Sing Tong people were going in through the back door. So he thought, this is a chance to talk to them. So he came over there and talked, and we brought Jack Chen in, and we had a nice get together.
Nice. What did he think? What was his reaction?
We have photographs of it, and I think he was really happy to be a part of that. Yeah, because the two Tong associations, although they knew each other and the kids played together, when they were young and stuff, they hadn't had much connection with each other over the years, because back in the 20s, they had some actual conflicts.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a really nice thing, and I hope that the Tong associations will get more involved with Chinatown, especially the Sui Sing. They tried to take him out.
Really?
Yeah. So he ran a pool hall here, and so they tried. Let's see. He was part of the Bing Gong Tong. So I think it was Sui Sing Tong came in there, members, and sort of shot up the place.
Wow.
But they missed him because he was really small and he crawled under a pool table.
Wow.
So that's the
story.
All right, that was really great history of Salinas, so thank you for doing that. Hey. And then our group who created their podcast around homelessness. Would somebody like to come up and introduce it for us?
Hi everyone, my name is Matthew. So for my final project, we wanted to focus on the issue of homelessness. So it was myself, Dee, Jose, Kathy, Estelle, and Kim. And the reason why I picked this is because we think homelessness is such a huge prevalent issue, obviously nationwide, but obviously in the town that we're from, especially in the West Coast. I see it everywhere we are, and I think it's important to be able to kind of shine a light on the people that may not have the biggest or the strongest voice right now. And we were fortunate enough to work with an organization called Goodness Village, which is in Livermore, and it's ran by Kim and Karen, and they do absolutely wonderful things with the homeless. They provide them with, they build little tiny homes, and they have a cute little community for people who aren't as fortunate to have a place to stay there. And in an interview, it just explains everything from this the whole town, like how they live there, what they expect, all the resources that they're given, and it's just a really neat organization that we work with. And it's a topic that I think is never going to go away, but also a topic that we should always talk about and hopefully continue to progress and make it a little better. So here's our video.
Hi, my name is Dee Parks.
I'm Matthew Whitwam.
I'm Jose Luis Lopez.
I'm Salams. I'm Catalina Sanfeder. And Kimberly Cortez. And today we're going to be talking about homelessness and many issues, causes, and possible solutions to help solve the problem. We're also going to speak about an organization called Goodness Village, and we got the opportunity to speak with staff members Kim Curtis and Karen Aberscotto.
Dee is here to give a little background into what the Goodness Village is.
So Goodness Village is a tiny home community in Livermore, California that gives affordable and permanent housing to the individuals who are experiencing homelessness. The houses are made of shipping containers with their own bathroom and kitchenette. The village provides employment with vocational training and community building, and they can use this to pay off their rent for the tiny homes. This is what Kim Curtis had to say when I asked her how they pay their rent.
Roughly 30% of their income. And there's a bulk of folks, right? The main bulk of them, like 18 people or 30% of their income, which could be between $350 and $600, depending on what aid they're on. And then on the lower end, we have about 4 people who are unemployed and don't have GA, and they work for us, and they work 24 hours a month. They're paid $15 an hour.
Karen, the volunteer coordinator, also explained that Goodness Village provides a resource center for the entire community.
We provide 24/7 support. So around the clock, if somebody needs support, we've got it there. We try to de-escalate everything in the village, so we're not involving the community services and other community services. We have counseling services for each resident. We offer ways for them to get to AA, NA. We offer vocational training.
Homelessness has been linked to more than one cause, and Kim shared some insight during our interview.
Well, we believe that the chronic homelessness is caused by the catastrophic loss of families. So whether that means, the family is, for some reason, not engaged anymore. Either they were never engaged, or when they were engaged, they were not a good family. So all of us, all humans, right? We all have bumps in the road and things happen to us, and we all have a safety net typically that we can go back to and rely on, that helps us get on our feet, help us process situations, and give us a space to lean on. Our folks that are out there don't have that. So along the way, they have developed coping mechanisms that are primarily unhealthy, right?
So according to her, a lack of support is the main cause of homelessness. What we wanted to know more was who are the types of people experiencing this, and we found out that it's all kinds of families, youth, and children. However, single adults experience it more than others, and that's who Goodness Village caters to. Something we didn't know the full answer to was why has homelessness increased? Shortage of affordable rental housing and simultaneous property values have increased throughout the years. As of recently, COVID-19 has played a major role in the homeless population increase. During the pandemic, there was a huge spike in unemployment and businesses were shut down. So here is Kim with a little bit more on the tiny house movement.
Okay, so the tiny house movement. We are going to explain the need for affordable housing in tiny homes and share some facts about homelessness in tiny homes. Approximately 150,000 families with 330,000 children stay in homeless shelters each year in the United States. Furthermore, the typical American home is around 2,600 square feet, whereas a typical smaller tiny house definition is a home with square footage between 100 and 400 square feet. Because tiny homes are so small, it can be hard for them to accommodate families, so they are geared more towards homeless individuals. And these tiny homes become mainstream as affordable housing alternatives when they were used as temporary shelters following Hurricane Katrina, but are becoming more prevalent now. So this is a speaking on homelessness.
So homelessness, it has been said that many individuals who are homeless are dying in California, and this is a place where homelessness is increasing the most. Many people that are experiencing homelessness are students and veterans as well. And the amount of homeless students in California has also been increasing in addition to the overall increase of homelessness. While there are a lot of people experiencing homelessness, it is said that communities of color are a big portion of it. One group in particular that is especially at risk today are Black people, which make up 6.5% of the state's total population, but 40% of its homeless population. The government should make a bigger attempt to decrease homelessness before numbers spike even more. And now I'm going to pass it over to Catalina that is going to speak more about the COVID-19 epidemic.
I'll be talking about some of the main causes of homelessness, which are the COVID-19 pandemic, substance abuse, and mental health disorders. First, I'll be starting with the COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19 has posed and continues to pose unique risks for people experiencing homelessness. When asking the homeless population, many of them said that they lost a job or hours at work, which caused them to be evicted due to the epidemic. Over the next 4 years, the COVID-19 related recession is expected to cause chronic homelessness to increase by 49% nationwide. Of the 16.9 million people unemployed in July, 9.6 million, which is 57%, were unable to work because their employer closed or lost business due to the pandemic. However, we have seen that throughout the pandemic, some situations have been happening that have opened up a lot of new shelters, housing, and emergency resources for the homelessness all across the United States of America. During our interview, Matt asked how COVID has impacted homelessness and whether it increased or decreased.
It has increased. I think it's become more visible. So as far as funding programs like ours, it's been helpful in that sort of way. Conversations are definitely happening. People understand how much community is needed and how quickly, without that, how your mental health is impacted and how relapses happen and difficult things start happening. So COVID in that way was incredibly beneficial for funding for Goodness Village. As well as people saying, oh gosh, if it gets into a homeless encampment, it's going to wipe out everybody. So then they started talking about we need housing, we got to get these folks in. Homelessness is about to rapidly increase because of the eviction, what is that, moratorium, whatever that word is going to take away, and all these people are going to be homeless. And I know they're trying to figure out what to do with it, but there's a bulk of people that are going to be coming out and struggling because we don't have enough housing for everybody that needs it. And it's going to be ugly for a little bit of time, I think.
Another leading factor to homelessness has been substance abuse. According to the article by the National Coalition for Homelessness, 15% of the people above the age of 12 reported using drugs within the past year, and only 8% reported using it within the past month. Many individuals don't know how to cope with things, so many turn to drugs to distract them from their reality. Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration states that 38% of homeless people are alcohol dependent, 26% people without a home are dependent on other addictive drugs. Moreover, a report by the University of California, Los Angeles last year estimated that overdose was the leading cause of death of unhoused people during the pandemic.
Hi, I'm Matthew, and I'm going to be talking today about mental illness and how it's been linked to homelessness. So, mental illness and homelessness go hand in hand because individuals who suffer from disorders have a difficult time making a job, socializing with people, and more. According to a 2015 assessment by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, 564,708 people were homeless on a given night in the United States. At a minimum, 140,000 or 20% of these people were seriously mentally ill. Moreover, housing and health are inextricably linked. A 2019 study of 64,000 homeless people, individuals living on the streets were more likely to report chronic health conditions, trauma, substance misuse, and mental health issues, and those who were temporarily sheltered. I will be passing over to Giselle, who will discuss the lack of affordable housing, which is another cause of homelessness.
I will be focusing on this issue within the Silicon Valley community. The lack of affordable housing within the Silicon Valley community has been slowly increasing throughout the years since the 1970s. During this time, we see affordable housing for low-income communities within the city of San Francisco. Supply and demand within the San Francisco Bay Area, in which highly paid professionals were relocating in the area. That back in 2018, California Governor Gavin Newsom promised to build 3.5 million units to meet the demand. However, there have only been 100,000 units built per year in recent years, below the 180,000 minimum required. Tech companies such as Apple, Google, and Facebook cannot fix the housing shortage within San Jose, San Francisco, Sunnyvale. If anything, they are adding to the housing crisis because the median increase in rent for Silicon Valley is approximately $3,000 to $28, compared to the average US rent of $1,661. Homelessness rates within San Jose have increased since 2017 by 42%. In 2019, the city of San Jose had approximately 7,000 unhoused residents living on the streets. The county is prioritizing families with at least one minor and expecting them to stay around 120 days in the tiny homes provided. The county of Santa Clara has a plan to end homelessness, planning to house approximately 20,000 individuals by 2025. Now that we have gone over the subject of homelessness and shared some information about tiny homes, we would like to share some of our personal reflections from our individual research projects.
Hi, I'm Catalina, and this is my reflection on what I've learned. Throughout my paper, I spoke about the issues of homelessness within Santa Clara County, in which we see the lack of affordable housing as the main issue within this community. In order for us to decrease the homeless population, our leaders have to start building affordable housing for everyone. We have seen them make small moves towards this by building tiny homes within city lines, giving access to homeless families until they are stabilized to move back into society.
All right, this is Dee from our research paper. I focus on how tiny homes are a possible solution to homelessness. Tiny homes are cheaper, taking up less space and materials to build, so they make good homes for individuals or couples. Goodness Village, the organization interviewed, is a great example of how tiny homes are beneficial because they can give people another chance. But since homelessness and health are linked, it also gives people from protection from the elements, street violence, casual substance abuse, and police run-ins, which are all things that the homeless deal with on the regular.
Hi, I'm Michelle, and I personally think the most important thing to know about this topic is that it can happen to anyone. The main causes are obvious reasons like poverty and health issues. However, it goes more in depth, like domestic violence and drug alcohol abuse are big factors that cause homelessness as well. In the interview, I asked Kim and her experience what she thinks the main causes of homelessness were, and she stated that it was health issues and poverty.
Through my research, I was able to understand that homelessness did increase in California, and solving the homelessness issue would be very difficult for California to do, because NPR did report that California needs 3.5 million new housing units by 2025 in order to even deal with this housing shortage. I hope that more houses will be able to be built because people need to get off the streets, and more people should not be dying from COVID. It would also be good if people that have trouble accessing housing, like people of color,
would be able to find places to live.
Okay, so I'm Shannon. Throughout my research, I found that there is more than one factor to homelessness. These factors have changed the lives of everyone affected by this, from COVID-19 pandemic all the way to mental illnesses. Overall, what I learned from this project is there are many organizations out there willing to help these individuals, from giving them somewhere to stay to helping one get back on their feet. As long as those individuals are willing to take advantage of the opportunity they are given, homelessness can decrease. It is easier said than done, but it's a start.
Hi, this is Matthew, and I'll be sharing my personal reflection on the research that I found about homelessness. So a lot of people are being forced to the streets, not by choice. Families, kids, and adults are becoming homeless. One of the main factors of why this is happening is due to the nationwide pandemic, COVID-19. So many businesses were being shut down and unemployment was skyrocketing. Once services, shelters, and housing opened back up during COVID, they were able to increase the services. In response to COVID-19, new shelters were being made because the homeless population was becoming a lot bigger. With so many businesses shutting down, it has led so many people unemployed with no income having to support themselves or even their families. This has ultimately led to a lot of homelessness as a result of COVID-19.
All in all, I think we all learned a lot from our research, and our findings were very eye-opening. I think that the issue of homelessness needs a solution in California and around the country.
I agree, especially because all of the consequences that homelessness causes, such as a negative effect on people's health.
But it's a good thing that people are doing their part in helping the homeless.
Also, if poverty was dealt with more in the country, it would be easier to deal with the homelessness issue in the country and all the other problems it brings.
I mean, the good thing is that there are programs out there and organizations that are helping the homeless. And I think showing support for nonprofit organizations like Goodness Village is how we can all do our part in helping solve the issue of homelessness in the country. And very special thanks to Kim Curtis and Karen Aubrey-Scott.
That is very true. Well, I hope this podcast introduced everyone to many new facts and inspire people to help out the homeless. Thank you all for your time.
Great work. There's a lot of research that went into that. So thank you. And then our group that interviewed Know Us Without You. Would somebody like to come up to introduce it? So hello everyone. My name is Juliana and my team members include Roxana, Jared, Grana, and Alejandra. We chose to focus on Know Us Without You LA. And we got to interview the main founder of the organization. We got to, during the podcast, you guys will see what Know Us Without You LA stands for, as well as a little bit more of how the founder got started on it. We chose this organization because we thought food insecurity has been like an ongoing problem. And due to the pandemic, we see with the organization shows how it has been going on way worse than before. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy and
Hello everyone, my name is Juliana Mundon and I am the lead researcher for our team.
Hello everyone, my name is Roxana and I am Alejandra, and we both interviewed the co-founder of the mutual aid group Know Us Without You, Otono Lasco.
My name is Brianna and I am the video and audio editor.
And I'm Jared, the narrator.
Otono Lasco and his team noticed an increase in food insecurity during the pandemic and wanted to help their community.
1 in 3 Los Angeles County households experience food insecurity, disruptions in eating because of lack of money or resources. During April to December 2020, the first half of 2021, the ratio fell to more than 1 in 10 Los Angeles County households.
So I'll start with myself. My name is Otono Lasco. I'm one of the co-founders of Know Us Without You, Los Angeles. I'm a 5th generation Angelino, born and bred in Boyle Heights.
And if anyone knows anything about Boyle Heights, it's the epicenter of Latin culture in America.
When the pandemic hit, many people were struggling to provide food for their families.
How New Us Without You story was that we were consulting for bars and restaurants, and we had just opened up 2 places, and the week before the shutdown in Los Angeles, so that was March 15th was the shutdown. We had just opened a bar and restaurant in South Hill, Little Osaka in Los Angeles, and so we had to shut it down. We had just hired and back of house staff for that location, and the organization really started because my business partner and I noticed that there was a lot of GoFundMe's and other crowdfunding going on in social media for everyone you see, the front of the house people. So, waiters, hosts, managers, bartenders, but nobody was talking about the back of the house, the dishwashers, the prep cooks, the porters, the bussers, the runners. What was going to happen to them? And, for myself and so many people I know, we had to figure out how to get unemployment for the first time ever. And, that's my money, that's your money. We pay into that system every paycheck, and it's called unemployment insurance for a reason, so that if you become an employee, you have a little bit of safety net. Unfortunately, the undocumented, the families that we knew weren't going to be eligible for any of that assistance.
Creating solidarity and providing food to the community is very important.
We started with 10 families. March 19th, we went to a local restaurant supply store, and we bought as much food as we could. That first week of the shutdown here in Los Angeles, we could only buy like 2 sacks of rice, 2 sacks of beans. We were limiting everything. This was a restaurant supply store, but normal people that didn't have restaurants or food trucks were going there to buy food because they had a large inventory. So we bought about $400 of food with our own money, and then we came back to our office in Boyle Heights, and we kind of just spread the food out and try to see what it would look like to feed a family.
No Us Without You focused on making sure everyone under their care had everything they needed while maximizing the amount of families they feed.
So over the course of the first week, we kind of fine-tuned how much food we gave everyone by checking in with them and making sure that they, if they ran out of something, maybe they need more beans or more tortillas. So once we got down in the first week, we figured out that we could feed a family of 4 or $30, so 1 week. And that was just my retail. Now we buy, wholesale. We're getting over 100,000 pounds of food delivered that we're, portioning out, and it's been a great, it's our 3rd year now.
The organization's name explains itself.
Former partner actually came up with the name, and it just made sense. It was one of those things that he just proposed to us, and we're like, that makes sense, because there is no us without the back of the house and families.
No Us Without You has had great success since starting this organization.
I know we are successful because, we're not wealthy by any means, but we're very rich in friends. So everyone that we know and love has helped us in our industry. Every chef, restaurateur, former coworker, just peer that have helped us at some point in the past 3 years. We owe people a lot, and I'm indebted to so many people, not only in Los Angeles that we knew, but strangers, people that have become really good friends and supporters of our nonprofit because they just get it, they understood. So I think that there's 2 reasons we've been successful besides the fact that people have kind of rallied to our cause, and then it is one is our volunteers. We have over 100 volunteers in our organization, everything from people helping us unload trucks to distribute food, manual, physical, hard labor. The other big reason we've had success from the beginning was that our really good friend Mel Castro, who's our volunteer media director, she's a famous photographer, reached out to us to document, our food distributions. And I think that once people were able to see the donation going directly to buying food and us buying the food, preparing, the food relief kits and giving it to families, it was almost like a picture was worth 1,000 words, right? And it really helped us on social media. It helped us with actual media when like the LA Times wanted to do a story on us, but they didn't have a photographer that could go out into the wild because of the lockdown, and Mel stepped up and had all of that taken care of. That's why we even say that, because our friends, our volunteers, and really just strangers that have become, supporters of everybody.
They started with a couple families and now they feed over 1,600 families.
Once we kind of put our money where our mouth was and started to, buy food for the 10 families, and then the first week it became 30 because everyone had a neighbor, cuñado, tia, so it spread. And by the end of the first month, 3 weeks later, we had 120 families that we were taking care of every week. So we feed the same families every week. We don't just feed them one time and then, say, hey, good luck. So it just kept building and building because there was a need. So we kept getting more and more families inquiring. Anytime we had any type of press, especially if it was in Spanish, especially if it was, Univision or Español, we would get hundreds and hundreds of emails or phone calls requesting assistance. We have the original 10 families that we helped. These families used to work 70 to 80 hours a week, 2-3 jobs just to survive. Whatever money was left over, they sent them to Mexico or Central America, South America. They still don't have. There's no families that we know that have like that full-time income that they had. The biggest problem, though, is that Los Angeles was shut down for so long that they had no income. So at least not in hospitality, restaurants. So they either had to find a different way to make money. You're starting from the bottom.
The families in this organization are also willing to help other families. And
what we told a lot of families, all the families say, is that, listen, I get it. Because they were telling my business partner, hey, I have like 2 or 3 shifts. Give my food to someone else that doesn't have 2 shifts. And we had to explain to them that they're not taking food from it. This food is allocated to them. The majority of the families were in debt. They were in arrears on rent. They owed back rent. They owed utilities, water, power, internet. So we said, hey, listen, take this $80 to $120 worth of food that we're giving every week. And instead of just, saying, hey, I'm good, and being proud and taking kind of like a leave of absence from the program, many of the families were like, okay, that makes sense. Now I can, if it's $400, it's $500 a month that you can like pay back. It's going to take time, right? It took time to get in debt. It takes time to get out of debt. So when they tell us, hey, listen, I'm good, then of course, we're not going to force them to accept our help. Unfortunately, we also have been helping for the majority of our existence. Day laborers, street food vendors, mariachis. Our community is an underserved communities, and there's a lot of people that are hungry. When we were naive, we didn't realize how bad food insecurity was in America, let alone our own community. So, we have so many street vendors that need help. So they will be going forward, definitely replacing the back of the house families that come off our digital program to support people per family. Unfortunately, give everyone the same. Some people might have 2 people in their family, so they're going to share with their neighbors.
No Us Without You supplies families with the necessities. They serve high quality produce and they also receive high quality meals from local restaurants, and they distribute those meals as well to the families.
So what's inside of our food kit is, it varies with the season, but it contains everything from milk and eggs and chorizo. You have potatoes, you have onions, you have carrots, you have whatever greens are in seasons. You have zucchini, broccoli, cauliflower, things like that, cabbage. We have corn tortillas, these organic, beautiful corn tortillas. We have different restaurants making like lasagnas and casseroles, pasta sauce, almost really anything that makes sense for family. We're not giving them things that are foreign to them. No one's getting like, you know, tofu or expired food or dented canned with no labels. We give everyone food that we would eat ourselves. We buy all the food. We're kind of transitioning our program now to be able to accept more produce. It's expensive to have storage space for that type of thing. It's a lot of running around, getting pickups and deliveries. So, you know, we're a small operation, and we try our best to maximize the amount of food we can get families.
Not Us Without You LA helps all of the undocumented restaurant workers.
And it's not just, you know, I want to make a point, it's not just Latinos we're serving. We'll help anyone that's undocumented. You know, that's really important. I think people sometimes think that we're only helping people that, you know, are Latin. That's not the case. We have families from the Middle East, and we have families from North Africa, we have families from, you know, Korea. Right now, there is a lot of families that are getting ready to come to the United States from Ukraine. So, you know, we don't speak Ukrainian, but we do have friends that do. So they're going to help us translate and get things, you know, in Ukrainian for them so we can help them out.
They've always had a plan for their organization.
You know, longevity is always a thing that you have to think that you have to have a 3-month plan, a 6-month plan. You know, you can't just live day to day because it's too much stress. So we've been really, really fortunate to have very smart people around us that offer the insight. We've been able to adapt and pivot and move, improve our systems. You know, we knew that, for example, this past holiday season, the winter months are the hardest months for restaurants because you have everyone coming off the holidays, so they're paying off their Christmas bill, and everyone's trying to get in shape, get new resolutions, you're going to train in January, trying to go to the gym. So donations drop, everyone's getting for taxes, so it's really hard. So we knew that from the previous year. So what we did was we were honest. We believe that the only way you get in trouble is if you don't ask for help. So we asked everyone for help, explaining what I just said, that, you know, winter time is really hard to get donations. So we need to prepare for winter by fundraising in November, December. And we did that. And we did that so well that we were able to basically continue through the end of March. Unfortunately, we have a lot of things in the pipeline for summertime. But in the immediate, we had to adjust our program from weekly to bi-weekly distributions to save money so that we could still provide food security, but add a, you know, alternate distribution cycle. It was hard, but it takes being honest.
They are also environmentally sustainable with an addition of a garden to supply for families.
So I have an organic garden in our district that we grow some food. We help, you know, distribute that food, but all of the food that we get as a family, like I said, we buy it from major purveyors that provide restaurants food with all the country. So this is, you know, there's no moldy potatoes or, you know, milk that's gonna go bad in 2 days. We don't do that. It's important for us to hold that dignity and give them things that are of quality nutritional value. You know, it's a small garden. It's about 2,500 square feet, but when we fundraise to build this space, you know, because all of this money, it costs about $250,000 to build this garden, and because we started from nothing, it was just a piece of dirt. Good friends who design restaurants designed it for us, and you know, our contractor Gary Rojas and Steve Segrist, the designer, and Greg Bolin, the main designer. They all did this for pro bono, and we basically paid for cost of labor and material. For example, when we bought our citrus trees, you know, we have pomegranate, Meyer lemon, Mexican lime, blood orange, tangerine, kumquat, loquat, and nectarine trees. We bought mature, 15-year-old big trees. So, you know, we've gotten hundreds and hundreds of pounds of citrus. So we add citrus to our kits. You know, we also have different donors. We've done a backyard citrus donations. My parents have a bunch of different citrus trees in the backyard. We have almost 100-year-old Oro Blanco grapefruit tree that, my mom and dad and neighbors, it's huge, it's like 40 feet tall. They harvest it a few times a year, and then they bring all the, the grapefruits to us, and we distribute them to the families. So we've done that with avocados. Our friends own an avocado ranch up in Fillmore, and they will bring us avocados and distribute to the families. So the garden itself, like I said, it can't produce a lot, but it helps in so many ways. You grow like especially lettuce. Right now, we just planted our spring and summer crops, and we have like 25 types of tomatoes, 90 types of chiles. We have tons of herbs growing, like 6 different types of corn. So, it's only the garden's been kind of going since really November, August of last year is when like the trees went in, and then everything kind of got put in November. So a lot of like leafy vegetables and lettuces and radishes and greens, things like that, cauliflower, broccoli. So we had like one harvest, and now we'll have our second harvest coming soon. So the garden allow us to have fundraising events, like we're having our first one coming soon with Kids of Immigrants, a really amazing clothing brand that's been very big sponsors of us as well as Gannon's. They've helped us a lot. So the money that we raise, for example, just from that one party, one event, will allow us to buy 10 pallets. That's $1,000 a pallet. 50 boxes at $20 a box. It will allow us to feed 500 families and take care of all the bills for the water, the power, all the fertilizer, all the organic stuff that the garden uses for like 6 months. So it's great to kind of go down the path of being self-sufficient, self-sustaining.
They also have a contactless delivery system for those that need.
For people that abuelitas and abuelitos that maybe don't drive anymore, or they're at risk, right, health-wise for COVID, so they kind of, stay in their bubble, stay isolated. So it's a contactless delivery system. So we have delivery drivers that go take it to the doorstep, leave it there. They know it's coming. So, yeah.
They also try to spread the word to tell others that it doesn't take much to help someone.
There's so many things we can do for our immediate neighborhoods, the block we live on. We still do things like that. That's how we started this, is that, where our offices are at, where our homes are at, we take care of not just like the front of our office, but the whole building, the whole around the corner. We clean, we clean the sidewalks and make sure that the abuelitas and abuelitos, when they walk, there's not trash. And for that, there's so many things we can do to help our community. We all spend time online, too much time. So maybe that means you find a food bank or a church or something in your neighborhood where you go pick up food for those people in your neighborhood, because maybe they can't go, or maybe they can't carry a big heavy box. There's so many excuses that we make about why we can't help everyone, okay, right? But you can help someone, and that someone should probably start, in your neighborhood.
No Us Without You, LA uses 100% of their donations towards food for families.
I just would love it if, anyone had $1 to share, $1 for everybody, and that's to buy food. 100% of donations that we receive to buy food, they spend on food. So we're very fortunate, like I said, to have been in hospitality before. So all of our clients, from Tecate to different liquor brands, pays for our refrigerator truck, pays for the lease, pays for the insurance, the fuel, they donate a lot of money. So all of our bills, office I'm in, the internet, the diesel, the small salaries that we have, insurance, every little thing that is a cost, an overhead cost, is directly paid for by private donors and public donors. That's what they want their donation to go for. And there's explicit in that. I would ask everyone that sees this, if you don't follow us on Instagram, we're at No Us Without You. You can follow us there and see everything that we're up to. again, send us a DM, ask us questions. Our website is knowuswithoutyou.la, as in Los Angeles. And you can donate there via Venmo, via bank card, credit card, check, whatever. And if everyone gave us $1, we do really good. So, but for $3, you can feed a family of 4 for 1 week. Well, thank you. If you have any follow-up questions or anything you forgot, or think of, just send me an email and I'll answer it.
Okay, thank you. Great work, everybody. I know you put a lot of time into this and a lot of effort into doing research and conducting your interviews. So I wish you all luck. If you ever need anything in the future, please reach out to me. But please have a good summer. Take care of yourselves, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. Okay. Oh, and also, one of the videos I had to fix a typo that I made on there, and so I'll send you all links to these so you can share these out. Please send thank yous to your narrators, your interviewees, and share the videos with everyone you can. Okay? Okay.
Are you going to be here at the Central Coast or are you going to go back to Second? Yeah, I'm working on